Our daily Avodas Hashem can sometimes get a little bit dry. Now, if there's a way you can somehow inject chizuk into that avoda throughout the day, that's a big gift, and it's going to make you a much happier person. So I want to focus on something right now, which I think is throughout the day. Every yid is affected by this. That's the word baruch, baruch atah Hashem. And there are classic meanings of that word, but let's talk about one meaning. What's the idea of baruch? And what does it mean? I'm giving Hashem a bracha? Well, what does that mean? Okay, so by way of a mashal, there's a Gemara in Brochos that says that a shachin ra is a person who has a base knesset in his town. You have a shul in your town, and you don't go into the town to daven. We're talking about men. He doesn't go into daven with a minyan. Now, I would think to myself, that's a strange definition, because a shachin ra is a person that causes harm to his neighbors. It's not a person that doesn't go to shul. Okay, he doesn't go to shul. How is that harm to the neighbors? Maybe the guy does avodah zara. Maybe he's a shvichas damim. But that he doesn't go to shul, like that makes him mamish a bad neighbor. Why should that be? So what's the idea? A good neighbor is someone who helps not only his local neighbors, but the entire neighborhood. And a bad neighbor is someone not only deprives his local neighbors of something good, but even hurts the whole area. So let's explain it like this, that you have a person who lives in a certain city, and you realize, this city needs to be fixed up. The traffic lights are not so good, and we need a few extra buildings here, and maybe we need a few guards at the entrance to the city. We just don't have enough money. So he calls up the local government, and he says, King, please, we need some extra money. Please build us an extra building, etc., etc., etc. Maybe the king will answer, maybe he doesn't. That's one type of good neighbor. But there's a higher level of good neighbor. That's the type of person who says, you know what, I have a better idea. I know the king sometimes takes a journey throughout the entire country. So he calls up the palace and he says, King, could you please stop by our city in your vast tour of the country? And the king agrees. Great, in 2 weeks, I'll be in your city. Fantastic. Everyone says to the man, what did you do to help us? So good, the king's going to come, but that doesn't fix our broken buildings. It doesn't give us a shomer, a guard at the beginning of our city. What's going to be? So within a day or two, all of a sudden royal servants come from all different directions to the city that this man lives in, and they start fixing up the buildings, and they start fixing the roads, and building extra things that need to be built. Incredible. Why is that? Because when the king goes someplace, he doesn't stay in a place that's broken down. The king stays in the best. So if the king's going to stay in that city, it's going to be fixed up. That's the same thing over here. When a person goes to daven in a minyan, every extra person who davens in a minyan brings more shechina to that shul and to the entire community, the whole city. And when a Kadosh Baruch Hu comes, a lot of the problems go bye-bye. The more Hashem shows himself in the world, the less the problems there are. All the problems that we have is because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is hiding himself to some degree. When Hashem is there, no problem. Now that's the same idea with the word baruch. Baruch is an expansion of something that already exists. Like the famous example of the wife of the Navi. The Navi was nifter, and all she had left was one little vial of oil in her house. So what'd she do? So then another Navi said to her, take the vial, get as many kelim as you can from other neighbors, and pour and pour and pour. And that's what she did. She poured away, and she had bracha. It's an expansion of what already existed. So when you say HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Atah Hashem, it means, Hashem, we want your feeling, your presence, your awareness of the world to expand. It's not enough, but good, you're everywhere. Baruch Hashem, you're called Hamakom. You're the place of the universe, but we want to feel it, and we want your presence to be felt in the world. When that happens, everything else changes. Now, every time you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you're doing that. You're making a shahakol, you're benching, you're davening. Any type of bracha, asher yotza, that you make throughout the day, you're injecting more and more and more of Hashem in the world. And that doesn't just help you, it helps absolutely everyone. Thank you very much for listening.